Something is happening out there that cannot be reversed. We are seeing a level of apathy, destruction, and corruption like never before in the history of Canada. The intentional tactics of the current government of Canada to feel like they are attacking Canadians and trying to make our life worse could leave Canada irreparable from the amount of damage that will be done. I don't think people understand how big of a deal it is that these things are happening currently and there is no recourse. What is going on? It is driving me insane, and everything we are going to talk about today is extremely important for us to be mindful of. I have two videos queued up that are going to fill in a bit of background information so that when we get to this Chrystia Freeland Q&A period and watch that horror show of her answering, it is infuriating to know that she is the one who is in charge of a lot of these decisions because she is our deputy prime minister. We know Trudeau thinks the same. I am so unbelievably frustrated watching these all together, but let's get into it.
Today I'm very pleased to announce that we are launching new pilots that will provide permanent residency status for caregivers as soon as they arrive in Canada. The biggest change coming in these new pilots will be providing a one-step immigration process. Before, caregivers first needed to get work permits and then obtain work experience before applying for permanent residency. Under the new rules, we're simplifying.
Before, caregivers had to follow a legitimate process to prove that they're supposed to be here. Wow, what a surprise. You know, now we're going to make it so they can just get it right away. All they have to do. This is going to be one of the easiest to abuse immigration programs that the Liberal government has instituted since they've taken power. And we have never had this level of mass immigration. And it is going to only get worse. I'm literally sweating already.
The process and providing them with a clear, straightforward pathway to stay and care for our loved ones. The change will notably provide more autonomy for caregivers to leave workplaces with abusive situations and seek opportunities to advance in the care sector. And Lord knows I've heard a lot of those stories, not only today, but in the past, as we've been listening and reaching out to people that have been providing that support and have been in abusive situations.
Yeah, guess who abuses them, guys? Guess who abuses them? People from their community who bring them over, and then they take advantage of these people because they know they can be taken advantage of. So good thing we're bringing over more of them. And guess what? The people who we're bringing over don't have to have any qualifications at all. All they have to do is prove that they have the equivalent of a Canadian high school education. The equivalent, that's it. Whatever that means. Oh my gosh.
Situations. I'm also pleased to share that we are lowering, out of fairness, the language requirements to Canada Language Benchmark 4 under these new PR on arrival pilots. Our aim is to strike a balance between breaking down the barriers caregivers face to get PR and selecting newcomers who will be resilient to changes in the labor market.
So now you barely need a high school education because it's their equivalent. We don't know what they're learning. We don't know anything. And because a lot of these countries, you guys know which ones, India, fakes a lot of their documents, we could be bringing over people who have no experience, no qualifications, no anything, family members, cousins, whatever, just being brought over and given PR right away for nothing. This is crazy. And now he's saying, you don't even need a language requirement. You don't have to speak English. You don't have to speak French. You can just show up with nothing and you're a PR. Not even just a temporary, you're a PR. A permanent resident. That's psychotic. This guy needs, allegedly, this is the type of person who, if you were to give a wedgie to somebody, this would be the type of guy you would give a wedgie to. Not saying to do that, but the type of person who would get a wedgie would be this guy. Holy smokes, this is crazy. This is nuts.
Lowering the language requirements is a must-needed change that we've heard directly from the community on, and will align with other programs in my department, as well as provincial programs, creating better consistency and fairness for all applicants.
Fair to who?
Caregivers will still have the needed language skills to work in the caregiving field. Let me be clear about that.
Sure they will, yeah.
And finally, as we look to address the desperate need for caregivers, we're also expanding the pilot programs from private household employers now to also include organizations who will directly employ home care workers. This will allow for and not-for-profit organizations to provide job offers and help address home care needs.
This is nuts. This is nuts. I don't think people understand how much this is going to be abused by people who are skipping the line, not following rules, not following due process. If you are an immigrant watching this video right now, who came to Canada more than 10 years ago, who followed the process, you followed the rules, you spent tens of thousands of dollars to get vetted and here. When you see this, is this not infuriating to you to know that an uneducated, unwanted, this person can come here to just be abused by the households that they're getting hired by and get PR right away? That's crazy to me. And then the reason why this is so important and why I really wanted to dig into this is because the Canadian citizenship is being watered down to being worth basically piss. It is being worth nothing, and we have foreign actors in our government actively acting on the behalf of foreign governments. Foreign-born people come over and get into government should not be allowed.
We begin with a stunning allegation of unethical and possibly illegal behavior by some members of Parliament and senators. A new report by the Security and Intelligence Committee suggests a few are knowingly engaging in foreign interference for their own benefit. From Ottawa tonight, here's CTV's Judy Trin.
A new report reveals that a small number of MPs helped foreign nations, mainly China and India.
What a surprise! China and India were interfering with Canada? That's nuts. I never would have thought two of those countries would have done it. You know, it's not like India is actively, recruiting on Instagram talking about how you can take advantage of the Canadian system. Come over on a visitor's visa. It'll get converted while you're here. There's no such thing as a process. I have people who I've met who work for the CBSA, and they have said, we see people come over on visitor's visa. They'll come to the booth, say, oh, we left and came back, and then try and reapply. Just basically do the border crossing and say, oh, no, this is my new visa. They did it while they're here. They're scamming. It's crazy. This needs to stop. It's crazy.
Meddle in Canadian democracy. After analyzing a trove of top-secret documents, a National Security and Intelligence Committee found some MPs and senators were semi-witting or witting participants in foreign interference.
We are absolutely committed to evolving and strengthening the measures that are in place. We're the ones that asked the National Security and Intelligence Committee to do this work.
If we did it, why would we ask you to look into it? Like, that's, if we did it, why, okay, if I farted, I'd admit to it. Honestly, if I farted, why would I bring it up? Like, that's the logic that these guys are using, because the level, when Freeland talks about this later in the video, the answers she gives are so disgusting, and she just, ugh.
And during election campaigns, some politicians engaged in unethical and even illegal behavior.
Gone. Jail. If you are a politician who is doing illegal behavior on behalf of a foreign nation, that's treason. You go to jail. I don't know how this is even up for discussion. We should have the names. They should be arrested immediately. If the documents are there, of course. If they are proven and found to be guilty, there needs to be due process, of course. But assuming that happens, they need to be in jail right away. There's no coming back.
Examples included communicating with embassies to help mobilize support from diaspora groups, accepting funds from proxies, and providing privileged information to foreign operatives.
That's treason.
After getting elected, one MP passed on information to India. The names of politicians benefiting from foreign interference were not named.
Much of this interference occurs not at the very highest levels, but at the nomination levels.
Once elected, those unnamed politicians were also working to persuade fellow parliamentarians on behalf of foreign actors. The report says that political staffers were sought after as proxies and journalists were targeted.
That's psychotic. They're here and actively recruiting and, trying to act on the behalf of foreign nations in our government. They're getting paid tax dollars. They're voting on stuff that has to do with real Canadians. If you are a foreign-born citizen, I'm sorry, you should not be allowed to be in Canadian politics. I'm sorry.
During the foreign interference inquiry, the Prime Minister and his cabinet testified they didn't receive some of the intelligence.
The biggest issue is information. How do we find who has the information? When do they have it? And who are they giving it to?
We know. They have the names. We don't know because they're not going to tell us. Because guess why? Our government is the most corrupt government it's ever been. This is wild. We're watching this happen on mainstream news in real time and seeing the disgusting apathy and the lying is just absolutely horrible from this freak, from this person who is so unqualified to be in her position. Let's get into this horrible stuff. Ugh.
Good morning. I just want to ask about the NCCOP report, and my question is for Deputy Prime Minister Christopher Freeland. The report describes behavior that might constitute treason, and yet we've seen no charges. Does that concern you?
Thank you for the question. I want to start by thanking the committee and the chair, David McGuinty, for their very serious work on this.
Shut the hell up and just say yes. It's a yes or no question.
I think that their work, the cross-party nature of that committee, the seriousness with which they have approached this, the real way that they have been fearless in putting the national interest first in this work is really exemplary and shows our parliament, our parliamentarians at their best.
I wanted to cut this out, and I wanted to cut out all of her stupid dancing away from the questions because I go, it's, annoying to watch. We have to watch it because that is her actively changing what the question is and not answering it. It's yes or no. So we have to watch her do this horrible dance where she looks like a fool and she thinks we're stupid. You watching this right now, she thinks you're stupid. That's why she answers these questions this way.
Our government takes foreign interference extremely seriously. I think your question is an important one because the findings of the committee are concerning, and they should be. As the Minister of Public Safety has said, we have confidence in our law enforcement bodies to do their job. And I am glad that our government has now put forward the strongest measures of any Canadian government when it comes to foreign interference, giving our law enforcement bodies the tools to act.
They have the names. How is this the strongest enforcement ever? If this is the strongest enforcement ever, that's sad.
Deputy Prime Minister, you said that the findings are concerning, and you have confidence in all law enforcement to do the work that they have to do. I guess I would ask, doesn't the public, though, have a right to know who these parliamentarians might be, especially as we approach an election sometime soon, possibly this year, possibly more than likely next year?
Yes or no?
Let me just say this. We take foreign interference really, really seriously.
No,
and I'm
you
just
don't.
going to speak personally for a minute.
Okay.
Having worked in authoritarian regimes myself,
she became an expert in it, and that's how she's really good at it.
I take the fight in the world right now between democracy and dictatorship really, really seriously.
Again,
and
I love
think
this.
It's moving to a new level. And I think Canadians should not be naive about the fact that one of the objectives of authoritarians around the world is to undermine democracies. They want to make us think that democracy just doesn't work, and they want to show their own people that they should accept authoritarian leadership because democracy isn't fit for purpose in the 21st century.
I'm pretty young, but I personally think this is the least democratic government we've ever had in the history of Canada. And that's including war times when they were doing war acts and war measures. These people are not only not representing Canadians, they are actively destroying Canada. I've never seen this disdain for a single country by their government. It's wild.
So I think all of us should take foreign interference really seriously. As Canadians, we should be really vigilant about defending our democracy. We should recognize this is a new time, and it's tougher. The global environment is more challenging than it has been in the past. I think the fact that we have this committee, that the committee has done such a serious job, that it has been a cross-party committee is really important and is real progress. I think the fact that we have put in place legislative tools that give us more of an ability as a country to fight foreign interference is important too. And I do really want to emphasize it needs to be law enforcement that takes the steps and takes the actions. The actual enforcement actions can't be politicized.
The reason, again, that I'm playing her answers in full is because she didn't answer either of the questions. She spoke that entire time. It's word gobbledygook. She uses all of these things because she knows there's no recourse for her. If we have politicians that we have these specific names of that are not getting in trouble for active foreign interference, how's she going to get in trouble for anything? She doesn't need to answer anything. And this is the apathy and the disrespect that I'm talking about that is so crazy.
Marco Vigliotti, iPolitics.
Thanks. Deputy Prime Minister, the PBO yesterday said that your government has a report that confirmed his findings on the rebates for the federal carbon levy. He says that you have prevented him from disclosing this information, even though he has seen it, and it's largely in line with what his report has said that this government's been critical of. Why has this government not shown Canadians this report and gone to the extent of effectively gagging the PBO about talking about it?
Thank you for the question. And I want to start by really sincerely thanking the Parliamentary Budget Officer for his work. He does a really hard job and a really important job. It's so critical for Canadians, for journalists to have.
If I was at a pool party with somebody like her, not her, and I'm not saying to do this, but if I was at a pool party with somebody like her, I would have shoved her in the pool already.
Have an independent body that does economic analysis that we can all look to. So I really want to say to the PBO, thank you very much for your work. Obviously, we are disappointed that in the published calculations by the PBO about the carbon rebate, the large emitters were included. But I really want to say I am 100% of the view that it was an honest mistake. And the PBO does a huge amount of work. They have a huge amount of data that they need to handle. And, you know, honest mistakes will be made. Our government is absolutely confident that the price on pollution returns more money to the pockets of 8 out of 10 Canadians.
How can you have absolute confidence when they're saying that's not true? The Parliamentary Budget Officer in his report has said it's not true. So you're lying or you're that big of an idiot. So you kind of have to admit, are you an absolute freaking idiot or are you lying to Canadians? Because it's one of the two, and I guess I'll let you guys decide what you think.
It is, and that there's just kind of common sense to that. This is a revenue neutral measure.
That's not common sense.
The federal budget doesn't get a penny from the price on pollution. All the money that is collected goes back to Canadians.
Lie. It doesn't make money and collect a surplus when she says doesn't get a penny. Guess what? There's lots of charges going through to make sure that the administration happens and all the administrative costs. So doesn't get a penny? Yeah, they burn a shit ton of pennies.
And actually this is a measure where middle-class Canadians tend to get more of a benefit. I'm very glad that we're increasing, I'm turning to Sean here because we've worked with him and with Seamus, I'm very glad we're increasing the rural rebate. So we have great confidence that this is a measure which puts more money in the pockets out of 8 out of 10 Canadians, that helps middle-class Canadians, and also plays an important, a valuable role in having strong and robust climate policies.
It plays a strong role in helping in the active and what is starting to seem and look like intentional destruction of Canada at a level that we've never seen before. So if that's what you mean by it helps destroy Canada, then certainly.
I just want to actually follow up on
David's questions from earlier. I understand you're saying matters of criminal charges have to be left to law enforcement agencies, but since we don't know who these MPs are that have been alleged to help foreign state actors, can you give any guarantee to Canadians that if they are Liberals, they will be removed from caucus?
Sit with that question for a second. If law enforcement finds that these MPs who are Liberals are guilty, okay, that's what he's asking, can you guarantee us if they are found guilty that they will be removed from caucus? That's all he's asking. She should be able to say, if they are found guilty, they will be removed. Let's hear what she has to say.
The guarantee I can give to Canadians is our government takes foreign interference very, very seriously. We have put in place tougher measures than existed under the previous Conservative government to fight foreign interference. I'm just going to say personally, yeah, we and I are very grateful to this committee for its serious and thoughtful work. From my perspective, foreign interference is not a partisan issue. Foreign interference is an issue about the national interest. It's an issue about the fight between democracy and authoritarianism, and that is absolutely the way that our government does and will continue to approach it. And I want to re-emphasize, we take very seriously the role of law enforcement and the importance in our rule of law society of law enforcement making the decisions about law enforcement.
She was asked if somebody is actively committing treason in government, will they be removed? And she said, can't answer you, basically. You know, I don't think this should be a partisan issue. You know, why are we targeting the Liberals? It shouldn't be a partisan issue. If somebody's committing treason, should they be kicked out of government? Yes or no? She's a psycho. I am so angry I didn't even talk about being a real estate agent in this video, but I am. Reach out to me in the link below if you want to work with me and my team all the way across Canada. I'm not this angry all the time, just for this video because it was extremely frustrating. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And even though we're angry, have a great rest of your day.